Welcome back. I'm Lara Jaye, and you are listening to the Wisdom Within podcast. On today's show, we are continuing our conversation regarding energies that reside in our field that aren't even ours. So they could have been the loneliness and abandonment or whatever emotions our mothers were feeling. I talked about that in the last show. So whatever emotions our moms were feeling when they were pregnant with us, or we also could be holding in our energy fields the anger from the grocery store, just anything. So as a reminder, this season 1 is an overview of my newest book, The Wisdom Within, Cracking the Secrets of Meaning, Purpose, and Security, where I weave personal stories with practical guidance, providing you with a roadmap to unlock your own inner potential and find greater meaning and security within yourself. Our topic today is a very tough topic to talk about, and it's one that is very close to my heart, close to my family. And we are talking about ancestral imprints, generational curses, vows, whatever you want to call it. And these could be imprints and curses or energies, if you want to call it that you are actually carrying for your entire lineage. I know this is huge. And in the Bible, it actually talks a lot about generational curses. And I believe it's Deuteronomy 28 alone contains 53 verses listing generational curses. So just a few of them, some of them that we don't even think about are a curse or a vow, are poverty, disease, child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, that's a big one, alcoholism, another huge one, drug addiction, also huge, depression, every single one of these. Confusion, interesting that is a generational curse. Fear is as well, mental illness, suicide, and any destructive attitudes and behaviors. Now, again, I didn't list all of them. Those are just a few. For me, although there were a few smaller imprints that I was holding for my generational language, the biggie for me was alcoholism. And I entitled Chapter 2, Family Traditions, that Hank Williams Jr. song. I used to sing this song a lot, and that the verse, stop and think it over to put yourself in a unique position. If I get stoned and sing all night long, it's a family tradition. And my family, my brothers and I, this Hank Williams Jr., I grew up in the northern Indiana in the Midwest on 80 some acres on a dirt road. Country music was our favorite. And this song really, in a sad kind of way, resonated with me. And I didn't understand why until years later. Now, we were not getting stoned as in drugs, but we were, alcoholism was very, very prevalent in our home. And so regarding these generational imprints, if you want to call it, this is how I personally have been shown that it happens. So when we are a soul getting ready to come through our mother, getting ready to come in, imagine with me, you are going down a hallway and opening doors to receive the different earthly personalities needed that you're a spirit, you're a soul, you're with the universal consciousness, you're with God. For example, each room that you open before you come in the spirit world helps you decide on what your body's going to look like. So you already probably by this time know your purpose and know why you're coming in, you know who you're coming through and who you're coming through as in your mom. And at this point, I feel like from what I've been shown that you now get to decide on your body. What body or meat suit, as I call it, these are meat suits, do you pick that is going to be the best one for this life? So what are we going to look like? What are we going to act like? You need a body that's going to help you get your best life lessons, gifts, your core wounds, karma. So our soul family is asking us as well to take on some of their wounds or imprint. So that's another room. So you have your soul family asking you to help them. And it might be, sometimes I see it as we're putting on a backpack of other people's stuff before we even come in. If you're carrying a load of generational imprints or curses, you most likely are a resilient old soul who has incarnated to specifically assist your family soul lineage in clearing this once and for all. And I believe that's why many of us are here right now. We raised our hand, we said yes. Hey, I will go, I will help. I was shown that clearing specific layers of curses, vows, addictions, and habits with energy work in myself. If I do this work in myself, guess what? It would also set my ancestors free, generations before and after me. This is huge. So the work I do now is going to help all my ancestors who have passed before, and then those coming through me later as well. Is that not amazing? The work I do, the work you do, heals the generations before and after us. Huge, huge. So we're being invited to do our inner work, to stop the madness of issues holding our loved ones back from being their highest and best. So suppose you notice a repeating pattern, a belief, or in my case, I called it a tradition. I didn't know it was that bad until later. A vow, addictions, there's alcohol, smoking, gluttony, laziness, pornography, you name it. There's many addictions. Or anything that is repeating in your lineage. Look for those repeating things. In that case, you can shift this direction generally for your entire family. Just because it happened in the past doesn't mean it has to go with you in the future. The key is identifying them for you and your family. So for me, I had several smaller imprints, but the main flat out ancestral curse for myself was alcoholism. And I knew what a scotch on the rocks with a twist was long before I was in school. 5 o'clock every day, a drink was poured in the kitchen for both my parents. And when it came to refills, us kids were the wait staff. So, being a child of an alcoholic, one of my superpowers was that I could read the room like nobody's business. Every minute, my unconscious job was to read my parents' emotions. And based on how they were feeling, I would go to work. My job was to keep peace at all cost. I was the second oldest of 4 kids, oldest daughter, and honestly, my spirit was broken early on. My soul began to break in fragments, and I felt like they definitely returned to the heavenly realm for safekeeping until I was ready to bring parts of me back. And unbeknownst to me, here I was walking around fragmented, afraid. My nervous system was always in overdrive, anticipating raised, angry voices. And at the same time, I learned not to trust, not to feel, and not to speak, especially not to trust myself, not to feel. I'd numb myself and not to speak. What did that do? It created a massive disconnect with myself, with my own body. These rules, often unspoken, that govern families where alcoholism is present, that don't talk, don't feel, don't trust, these are huge. Children of parents with alcoholism learn at a very young age that their emotional and sometimes physical survival depends upon understanding, and I had to follow these rules. So as an adult, so here I grow up, I failed to recognize that these rules are unnecessary and unhealthy outside of the family's alcoholism. I struggled trusting others. I learned not to count on others, seldom speak my true thoughts. Instead, I would say in the past, not now, in the past, I would say what I believed others wanted to hear. So the interesting thing was I lived at home until I was 17 and then went to college 3 hours away. And I would not have considered my mom or dad an alcoholic. I knew we had alcohol in the house. Everyone, it felt like to me, had alcohol in the house. And I didn't really understand the huge impact it made on me until I actually got some distance from the house. So I go away to college. It's my freshman year, and my boyfriend and I are driving. He's also from my same hometown, 3 hours away. So we're driving from Indianapolis to northern Indiana, where both our families are from. So we're on our way back. We'd had a weekend there, and it was a tough weekend. And on our way home, I asked my boyfriend at the time, who later became my husband, I said, "Do you think my mom drinks too much?" And I will never forget him looking at me driving and saying, "Lara, everyone knows that your mom is the town drunk, and it's okay. She is so loved, and she is a wonderful person, and she was, and she struggles with alcohol. My mom told me about her when we started dating, and it's okay." Well, this was all news to me. I was livid at him for telling me about this pink elephant in the room. I was completely shocked that everyone else knew except for me. And from that point forward, I really dove into addiction books, counseling, and anything that would help me better understand what my mom was going through, her own demons. And again, my dad drank as well, but it was my mom's drinking that caused me the most grief, I would say. So there was guilt plagued me everywhere. Even if I didn't do anything wrong, I just suffered from this awful low self-esteem and really some self-hatred. And it felt like it was just getting worse every day. And I don't doubt that my trauma from living in this unstable household affected me much more than I may ever know. And the work that I've done on myself, even since raising my children and even with them being gone, has been huge. So life continued to unfold as it did. I noticed that anxiety would just overtake my body if there was an upcoming family event or holiday, and I knew that I'd be going home for the weekend or a week. I would be very sick, shaking, nervous, even vomiting out of nowhere would overtake me. And later, after having kids, visits home to the family, honestly, they grew even worse. Growing up, I knew I had no choice in how I was treated when alcohol talked, but I always thought I could protect my kids. And it really wasn't long before I realized that wasn't true either. It became even more important to me to heal this area of my life now because I realized how much it was affecting my kids. And I do talk about a couple of really specific, intimate stories in chapter 2 about this issue, about things that we walked into and how it affected me and my kids. But after decades of sitting in church pews and studying my own unique brand of energy work, I began to see the role of generational curses played in my life. And actually, my mom had several people in her lineage that were probably considered alcoholics, as well as, I believe, on my dad's side as well. So generational curses, they're patterns of negative behaviors and energies or even outcomes passed down from one generation to another within a family. And it can affect us in many ways: our finances, our relationships, health, and mental well-being. In some cases, it can be traced back to a specific event or trauma in a family history. Not always, but sometimes it can be. So while identifying and breaking generational curses, it can be challenging. It is possible to do so, though. It's possible to do so with intention and spiritual practices, and first and foremost, asking for help from God. Here are some of the steps I use to break free from my own curses and create a more positive legacy for future generations. So my first step is to recognize it. Recognize the negative pattern or patterns that are being passed down in your family. Keep a journal about this. Write it out. It requires a deep level, though, of self-awareness and reflection. And not too many people want to do that. But if you're listening to this podcast You do. You are ready. You are ready to go deep. You're ready to have that self-awareness and reflection. Take time to think about the patterns that you've noticed in your life and how they may be connected to your family history. So once you've identified the patterns, it's essential to understand where they originated. Not always, but generally. So this could involve researching your family history, talking to older relatives, or seeking guidance from a spiritual advisor or therapist. The goal is to gain insight into the events or traumas that led to this pattern for your family. To break free, it's essential to release the past and let go of the negative emotions or beliefs holding you back. This can include a lot of forgiveness work, meditation, prayer, energy healing practices. There's Reiki. There's something amazing called EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. EMDR is a very popular way to help move through trauma. And then there's also EFT, emotional freedom technique. I have tried it many times. It has not been the best thing for me to work through things, but a lot of forgiveness work, meditation, all the others for the most part, absolutely really helped me. So once you've released, once you can start noticing the pattern and releasing the past, you get to create this new narrative for your life and your family's future. And that is what is so important. And as you're doing this, it is imperative that you prioritize self-care. This could involve regular exercising, eating a healthy diet, getting enough sleep, practicing your mindfulness and meditation, all of these things. Massive self-care during this time, massive love for yourself. Breaking generational curses requires courage, requires a lot of self-awareness, and a willingness to do the work necessary to create a better future. So by recognizing the patterns in your life, identifying the root cause, releasing the past, you create a new narrative and you're prioritizing your self-care. You can break free from these negative patterns that have been passed down and create a brighter future for yourself and your loved ones. You need to do your part of it, and the rest is surrendering the how it happens and the when it happens to God. Hand it over. Do your work. Do what you feel led to do and hand over the rest to let God shift the pattern in your life and in your ancestors. The how it happens and the when it happens, that's not up to us. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please leave me a review and share this podcast with your friends. On the next episode, I'll be talking about imaginary friends, light language, metaphysical experience, and working with the angels. If you have any questions about what we covered in the show or would like to follow my projects, you can find me on larajay.com and all the fun social media places. Links are below. Have a fantastic week, and may you always seek your wisdom within.